Well, I'm Kimberly Ewing, your host here at the Media Lounge at the 22nd Annual Wild and Scenic Film Festival right here in Nevada City, also in Grass Valley this weekend. We're so excited that Nevada City Winery is hosting the Media Lounge, and we are here with another incredible filmmaker, Jaxon Derow. Jaxon Derow is new to the Wild and Scenic, but has an incredible first film as the film director and producer and cinematographer. It's called Vanishing, and editor. Oh my goodness. It's called Vanishing Oasis. Welcome, Jaxon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about Vanishing Oasis. It's your first film. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in and around Salt Lake City for about a year. And it was one of the lowest snowfall years ever on record, and it really got me interested in what's going on here, why did that happen, and most of Salt Lake City snow comes from the lake. You get all this lake effect snow, and most people in Salt Lake City aren't even are kind of minimally aware that they live kind of right below one of the biggest saltwater lakes in the world.
Right.
And so I discovered for myself that this lake was here and started looking into it more and more, and realized that 10 million migratory birds come across this lake every year from
it's amazing.
The tip of southern Chile all the way to the Arctic tundra, and then you learn that it's shrunk by 2/3 in the last 30 years, and we're at this point now where the shrimp and the flies that live in the saline lake that are especially adapted for the saltwater levels there, the lake has shrunk so much, it's gotten so much more salty that they're at risk of dying off. And
right.
They're the main food source for all those birds that come to the lake every year. And so it was kind of immediately this, I think you get really lucky as a filmmaker when you find a story that's so powerful that all you just have to prevent yourself from screwing it up too badly, and
well,
so
that's a humble thing to say, but and what I realized when I watched that is that even if in a good year you have to have like 130% more of the water just to regulate the brine or the salt concentration in the water.
Yeah. So
tell us what happens in your film that finds hope. There's a little bit in there and that I loved hearing.
I mean, the thing that really attracted me to this story as well is that there is a pretty clear solution here, and I think that's really important, especially in environmental films, to kind of have a message of hope in there. And that message is that the lake is shrinking because people are making a very conscious choice to use 70% of Utah's water to grow alfalfa and hay.
Yes.
And that is getting shipped to China to feed their beef industry, which isn't inherently bad, but I think what is so unequal is that it only contributes less than 0.05% of the state's GDP.
Right, which is the economy, and it's so little for so much of the water.
Exactly. And so it's up to the state lawmakers to stand up to the agricultural industry and for people to put pressure on them to do that, because all that water that's diverted from the rivers that should be flowing into the Great Salt Lake, they can make the choice to allow more of that water to flow into the lake again, which would have a pretty immediate positive impact on the health of the ecosystem. To make matters worse, or in some senses to make the decision even more clear, because the Great Salt Lake is a terminal lake, no water exits it. And so all the minerals that are carried into it stay there and build up in concentration.
Right.
And so the lake bed actually has naturally occurring arsenic in it, which the longer that the lake bed remains low, as the main character in my film discovered, he's an atmospheric scientist, and he was studying the dust coming off of the Great Salt Lake from the lake bed that's been exposed in the last 30 years. It has arsenic in it, right? And so that's going to start blowing into Salt Lake City more and more, which is going to significantly raise cancer rates in and around the Wasatch Front, which is home to 2.5 million people.
Right. I mean, systemic health issues will start to increase because of the arsenic through the airborne transfer.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And if you think about it, I think in your film, the migratory birds are traveling so far that they're so thin. By the time they get to their destination, they need to eat as much as they possibly can to stay strong and to continue their migration.
Absolutely.
So it's this full circle of ecosystem that's important.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Great Salt Lake is kind of important to everyone. It's important to people all across South America, even if they don't know it, because all the birds that are landing on the Great Salt Lake are going back there every year. They're playing an important role in their ecosystems as well as Utah's ecosystems.
Right.
And there's something to care about in this story for everybody. Even if you couldn't care less about birds, there's a public health aspect to this that really needs to be solved for the benefit of everybody who is living around the lake.
And it's interesting, I have to ask the question, why is it that people in Salt Lake City don't know, or why do you think they don't know?
I think there's a lot of reasons for it. One, on a good year when the lake is really healthy, it doesn't smell great because it's a saltwater lake. It's not this, beautiful scenic place to go visit in the way that some other big parks are,
like recreational lakes.
Exactly. Right. And so there's a sailing culture and stuff like that on the lake, but it isn't an attraction the way that other places are, and so it kind of gets forgotten about.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we are not going to forget it because you're bringing it to our attention. Jaxon, you told me off the air that you are finishing film school, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you tell me, your movie goes with our theme of this year, Real Action. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about what's next for you now that you're finishing film school.
Absolutely. We just finished a film about Cottonwood Ranch in northern Nevada and the Smith family's kind of fight to prove that they deserve to be the caretakers of the land that they're on. For the last 25 years, they've been using cattle to play the role that bison had for millennia on their land, and everything has come back to life. And there's an environmental group that's putting pressure on the Forest Service to run them out of business, and the land is going to suffer as a result. So I think the next year really is going to entail pushing that film out there and trying to get some change made for them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. What would you say to, when are your shows, when is the show happening?
Yeah, Vanishing Oasis is screening tomorrow in Grass Valley at 10:30 a.m.
Okay.
Part of the wildlife conservation session.
Great. Okay. Well, Jaxon, it's been a pleasure. And thank you again for listening to us here at the Media Lounge at the 22nd Annual Wild and Scenic. We are so happy to be here. The theme is Real Action, and we'll be back very soon. Thank you. Thank you.